Welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we bring you some of the biggest stories of the week. I'm Song Yoo-jin, coming to you from Arirang's virtual studio. With less than 3 months until the U.S. presidential election, the Democratic Party held its national convention in Chicago, rallying behind their presidential and vice presidential candidates. We'll take a look at some of the key moments from the 4-day event, filled with powerful speeches and lively performances. Back here in the country, the OGG Freedom Shield joint military exercise between South Korea and the United States is underway. The annual summertime drills come at a time of heightened tensions on the Korean Peninsula. We'll give you an update on how the first week unfolded. The Bank of Korea kept its key interest rate steady for the 13th consecutive time. What are some of the reasons behind this decision, and when could we expect a potential rate cut? We start this week in the United States, where the Democratic Party's 4-day national convention wrapped up on Thursday local time, with current Vice President Kamala Harris formally accepting her party's presidential nomination. Here are some of the highlights from the final night of the DNC.
On the fourth and final night of the U.S. Democratic National Convention in Chicago on Thursday, Vice President Kamala Harris formally accepted her party's presidential nomination, becoming the first Black woman and first person of South Asian heritage to be named as a major party presidential nominee. In her speech, she took aim at Trump, saying she would not cozy up to dictators like Kim Jong-un, saying North Korea knows that the former U.S. president is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors.
I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself.
Trump has long boasted about his positive relationship with the North Korean leader. During last month's Republican National Convention, the former U.S. president said Kim probably misses him. And throughout his campaign, Trump has repeatedly pointed out the importance of getting along with certain leaders, including those who possess nuclear capabilities.
You don't have to imagine what a Harris presidency would look like. You're living through the misery right now. We were respected before Putin respected us. President Xi of China respected us. Kim Jong-un of North Korea respected us. We were respected by everybody in the world. Today we're being laughed at.
During his presidency, Trump met Kim 3 times in an effort to get the regime to abandon its nuclear missile programs, but made no tangible progress. Trump has been referring to his efforts on North Korea, implying he could make progress if he returned to the White House. Other than foreign policy, gender gap and economy are also likely to make up major factors in determining the result of the election in November. With just 75 days left until the election, Harris and Trump will now face off in a debate in Philadelphia on September 10. 배은지, Arirang News.
Another key figure in the spotlight is vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. He introduced himself to America during his acceptance speech on the 3rd night of the Democratic National Convention. Iuni has the details.
The Democratic Party officially named Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as their vice presidential candidate on Wednesday for the November 2024 election. During the 3rd night of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, the 60-year-old Minnesota governor took the stage to deliver his keynote speech and accept the nomination.
It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
Now the race is set for a matchup between Walz and his Republican opponent, Senator J.D. Vance, who has built a reputation as a strong conservative voice and former venture capitalist. Walz has a military background with the U.S. Army National Guard and experience as a high school teacher and football coach. A poll released Wednesday by AP found that 36% of Americans view Walz favorably, compared to 27% for Vance. However, the poll also found that many Americans are still unfamiliar with both candidates. The night showcased speeches in support of Vice President Kamala Harris as the next president, featuring figures like former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and former President Bill Clinton. Clinton thanked President Joe Biden for his courage and sacrifice, highlighting how Biden's decision to step down will enhance his legacy. Media personality Oprah Winfrey surprised the crowd with a powerful speech centered on freedom.
But more than anything else, let us choose freedom. Why? because that's the best of America.
Harris will formally accept the Democratic Party's nomination and deliver the keynote speech on Thursday, the last night of the convention. The first TV debate between the two vice presidential candidates is set for October 1st. 이은희, Arirang News.
Seoul and Washington's major annual military exercise, the OGG Freedom Shield 2024, kicked off this week, aiming to strengthen the Allies' defense posture against North Korea's potential nuclear attacks. For more on this, we have our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung joining us. Welcome, Min-jung.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time. So, Min-jung, to start off, what is the OGG Freedom Shield exercise?
Right, the UFS is a key combined military exercise between Seoul and Washington, and it's held every year here in South Korea. And this year, the exercise kicked off on Monday and will run until next Thursday. It includes computer-based simulation and combined field training exercises with a focus on bolstering the Allies' defense posture against threats from Pyongyang. The training also includes civil defense drills involving government agencies, with exercises that simulate a nuclear attack from North Korea for the first time this year. This year's exercise involves some 19,000 South Korean troops with a total of 48 outdoor drills, which is 10 more than last year, including field maneuvers and live fire exercises. The exercise also seeks to further strengthen the Allies' capability and readiness to defend against North Korea's weapons of mass destruction by utilizing a variety of assets across all domains, including space.
The combined ROK-US exercise is a critical factor to the strong defense posture of the Republic of Korea in times of contingencies and crisis.
And President Yoon Suk-yeol on the first day of the exercise actually urged resistance to North Korea's psychological warfare and fake news, right?
That's right. President Yoon stressed the importance of UFS exercise during a cabinet meeting on Monday. He reiterated that North Korea continues to divide South Korea and confuse its people.
먼저 허위 정보와 가짜 뉴스 유포, 사이버 공격과 같은 북한의 회색지대 도발에 대한 대응 태세를 강화해야 합니다. 우리 사회 내부에는 자유민주주의 체제를 위협하는 반국가 세력들이 곳곳에서 암약하고 있습니다.
And for the first time, Yoon called for the government to come up with measures to raise the will of the public to, quote, resist North Korea's propaganda.
Right, and just hours before the exercise kicked off, North Korea criticized it as a provocative war drill. So please tell us about the regime's take on the OGG Freedom Shield exercise.
Right, the regime argues that the exercise is a rehearsal for invasion. This is why Seoul and Washington's military authorities usually keep a close eye on potential provocation from North Korea when the UFS exercise is taking place. During last year's exercise, Pyongyang conducted ballistic missile tests. Now, South Korea and the U.S. have reaffirmed that the exercise is defensive in nature, and earlier this week, a Pentagon press secretary said the exercise provides opportunities for the Allied forces to work together on interoperability and learn how to operate in dissimilar environments.
Right, and amid the ongoing drills, a North Korean soldier crossed the inter-Korean border on foot and expressed an intention to defect. So how did this all happen?
Right, a North Korean soldier wearing a military uniform is believed to have walked south using the road along the East Coast early on Tuesday. According to a South Korean military source, the soldier, who is reportedly a staff sergeant in his 20s, crossed the military demarcation line in the northeastern county of Goseong-gun, Gangwon-do province. The area where the crossover happened is close to where South Korea has been carrying out loudspeaker propaganda broadcasts in retaliation to North Korea's continued trash balloon deliveries. It's also near where North Korean soldiers were recently seen laying mines as part of the regime's efforts to prevent North Koreans from crossing the border. So it is questionable whether North Korea's mine laying is effective. And this also comes less than 2 weeks after another North Korean resident in his 20s defected to South Korea by crossing the maritime border. We don't have many details in terms of the reasons for defecting, but the latest border crossing appears to be an indirect indication of the conditions faced by those in the north.
Right, so hope to get more updates on that soon. All right, Min-jung, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And staying with defense, the U.S. has approved the potential sale of Apache attack helicopters and other defense-related products to South Korea. According to the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, the U.S. State Department gave the green light to a potential government-to-government foreign military sale worth some $3.5 billion. This comes as Seoul made a request to purchase up to 36 of these helicopters, as well as helicopter engines, Hellfire missiles, and more. The agency said the sale would support the foreign policy goals and national security objectives of the U.S. by bolstering the security of allies like South Korea. The sale now requires congressional approval. On the local front, concerns have been mounting over a summer resurgence of COVID-19 infections. Now, this week, the country's health agency reported that while hospitalizations are still rising, the increase is smaller than it was the week before. But authorities aren't letting their guard down. Choi Soo-young tells us what the government has planned to keep things under control.
The increasing trend of COVID-19 in patients in South Korea during this summer has declined this week compared to last week. The quarantine authorities said the number of patients from 220 hospitals nationwide increased by about 55% in the second week of August, from 880 to 1,366, while it rose by 5.7% in the third week, reaching 1,444. The authorities predicted that this trend will peak later this month before decreasing, stating that the current management system is sufficient to handle the situation. In case of a potential uptick in cases, the government said on Thursday it will strengthen medical systems, especially in preparation for the Chuseok holiday, which is about a month away.
The government will operate a thorough medical system checkup during the Chuseok holiday to ensure there are no gaps in services. If the COVID-19 outbreak continues and more emergency patients arise, the government will ensure that more hospitals and clinics are on duty compared to previous years.
It has announced that treatment medicines for about 180,000 people will be distributed starting next week, planning to cover high-risk groups until October. These supplies, including test kits, will be provided more steadily through the general healthcare system after October. The Health Ministry recently said that effective vaccines against the current variants will be supplied starting in October, urging people to follow personal hygiene measures. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, talks to broker a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip ended without a breakthrough last week. Hopes were high that the deal could prevent the Israel-Hamas war from escalating into a wider regional conflict, especially after the assassination of Hamas's political leader in Iran last month. But it looks like retaliation from Tehran might not be happening just yet. Cha Yoon-kyung has the details.
According to a spokesperson for the country's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on Tuesday, Iran's pledged retaliation against Israel for the killing of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran will take some time to be realized. In an interview with state media, the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, the spokesperson said that Iranian actions will be very calculated ones. He said that a revenge attack was inevitable. Meanwhile, the firm stand of Iran after the assassination of Haniyeh has been toned down.
We do not seek to escalate tensions in the region and support sincere efforts made by all parties to achieve a ceasefire. In addition, we would like to reiterate that Iran has the legitimate right to punish aggressors and deter Israel.
In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who has been making diplomatic efforts to secure a ceasefire in Israel's war with Hamas, visited Qatar right after meeting with the Israeli president in Tel Aviv on Tuesday. Blinken is pushing the Hamas leadership through intermediaries to continue talks on a ceasefire deal, adding that Israel has accepted the U.S. ceasefire plan.
Israel has now accepted that proposal. I heard that directly from Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday. And we hope and expect that Hamas will do the same.
U.S. President Joe Biden is also pressing Hamas, saying at the Democratic National Convention that Hamas was falling back when it comes to the ceasefire deal. However, a Hamas official on Saturday local time dismissed Biden's ceasefire proposal for Gaza, adding that remarks by Biden and Blinken were falsely endorsing it and allowing the Israeli government to commit crimes. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
The ongoing tension in the Middle East has prompted the South Korean government to extend fuel tax cuts until October. Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok announced the decision during an economic meeting on Wednesday, citing volatile oil prices as a burden on the public. Currently, the tax on gasoline is levied at 656 Korean won per liter, with a tax rate cut of 20% applied. For diesel, it's 407 won per liter, a cut of 30%. Back in July 2022, the government expanded the fuel tax cut rate to 37% for gasoline and diesel in an attempt to stabilize consumer prices before reducing the rate in steps. Now, this is the 11th time that the government has extended the fuel tax cuts, as they were due to expire at the end of this month. Staying with the economy, South Korea's central bank once again held its key interest rate at 3.5%, marking its longest rate freeze. With the rate unchanged since early last year, our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin explains the reasons behind this decision and when we might see a change.
The Bank of Korea has held its benchmark interest rate steady at 3.5% in a decision that was announced on Thursday following the second Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the second half of the year.
We have unanimously decided that it would be appropriate to maintain our current monetary tightening stance while inflation is slowing, because we need to monitor the impact that real estate policies and global risk aversion will have on financial stability.
This is the 13th time in a row that the BOK has decided not to change the rate, its longest rate freeze streak. The base rate was last raised in January 2023 to the current 3.5% and has been left steady since then. The rate freeze decision this month comes despite inflation remaining in the 2% range for 4 straight months. Recent data shows that the country's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose 2.6% in July compared to the same month last year. This is higher than it was in June, though, when consumer prices rose by 2.4%. There are also ongoing concerns about growing household debt and housing prices. Data released by the Bank of Korea on Tuesday showed that the country's balance of household credit, an indicator of household debt, reached the highest level on record on a quarterly basis, mostly due to mortgages. This comes as home prices in Seoul went up by 0.76% compared to the previous month, the largest rise seen since December 2019, according to the Korea Real Estate Board. The BOK's decision was also influenced by the U.S. Central Bank, which in its most recent meeting decided to keep interest rates unchanged. The Fed, however, is widely expected to cut interest rates from as early as September.
Recent revisions have shown that while the U.S. labor market is not bad, it's not as strong as the preliminary figures made it out to be. The BOK will follow in the meeting on October to lower Korea's interest rates by the same 25 basis points.
Also on Thursday, the BOK lowered its economic growth outlook for this year to 2.4% from 2.5%. The BOK said that it did so because the previous forecast was based on large growth in the first quarter, which was mostly due to temporary factors. And this year's inflation forecast was also lowered to 2.5%. Moving forward, the Bank of Korea says it will remain vigilant in keeping inflation under control and will decide on the timing of rate cuts while monitoring economic growth. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, electric vehicles have hit the headlines here in Korea recently after an electric car suddenly caught fire and took more than 8 hours to put out. This has ignited growing calls for better safety measures. Here's our economics correspondent Moon Hae-ryun on what measures the government is drawing up.
It all began on August 1st when a fire broke out in the underground parking lot of an apartment complex in Incheon. A Mercedes-Benz EQE electric car using Foros's energy batteries appeared to spontaneously catch on fire, consequently destroying 87 other vehicles and damaging 783 more. While forensic police investigations are expected to take around a month, the incident sparked fears over the safety of electric vehicles. According to data from K-Car, a South Korean auto trading platform, the number of EVs put up for sale nearly doubled the week following the fire compared to the week before. A different used car platform, N-Car, showed that prices this month of some popular EVs such as Hyundai Motors Ioniq 5 and Kia's EV6 fell in contrast to last month, as did Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y. In response, the government advised EV firms to release information on battery manufacturers used in their vehicles to ease consumer concerns last week. Next month, it plans to release a more comprehensive solution.
The question of whether or not to make labeling the manufacturer of EV batteries mandatory will be included in the comprehensive measures to be announced in early September, along with other content.
Despite the fact that it has not been made mandatory as of yet, most EV firms selling in South Korea stepped up to release information about the manufacturers of batteries used in their vehicles, starting with Hyundai Motor and including the likes of foreign automakers such as Tesla. The majority of EVs listed use South Korean batteries, while around a quarter use Chinese batteries. Experts expect disclosing manufacturer information for EV batteries to benefit both consumers and domestic EV battery firms.
I think the effect of mistakes made during manufacturing is actually greater than the effect of surrounding temperature or overcharging. Personally, I think revealing manufacturer information would be effective, so manufacturers will be more responsible when making their products.
In recent years, China has rapidly gained ground in the global EV battery market due to its strong cost competitiveness. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In sports news, South Korea's main delegation for the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games departed for Paris on Wednesday. 48 athletes and staff members boarded their flight to the French capital from Incheon International Airport. The first group traveled to Paris last Wednesday to participate in a pre-games training camp. In total, South Korea is sending 83 athletes and 94 staff members to compete in 17 sports, with the goal of winning at least 5 gold medals and ranking among the top 20 in the overall medal standings. Take a listen to what Team Korea athletes had to say.
I'm heading to the place where my dream will finally come true, and I feel really well prepared. I'm leaving with the mindset to enjoy every moment and have fun. This is my first time at the Paralympics, something I've dreamed about for over 10 years. I can feel my heart racing with excitement.
Our wheelchair fencing team has trained just as hard as the non-disabled fencing teams. We're focused on maintaining our best conditions so that we can deliver a strong performance and achieve great results. Competing at the Grand Palais in Paris is truly an honor.
The Paris 2024 Paralympics will take place from August 28th to September 8th. Now, staying with sports, the South Korean Baseball League has set a new single-season attendance record. The Korea Baseball Organization announced that on Sunday alone, over 91,000 spectators gathered across 5 stadiums around the country. That brought this season total attendance to approximately 8.47 million, which is the highest ever, breaking the previous record set in 2017. The new record comes with about 80% of the 720 scheduled games played so far, with 147 games remaining. Despite the ongoing heat wave across South Korea, the season is expected to reach 10 million spectators for the first time. On the cultural front, have you ever imagined what it would be like to take a balloon flight in the middle of Seoul? Well, you can make that dream a reality from this week. Take a look. It's a typical weekday afternoon in central Seoul. The sun is still high in the sky, but a giant moon begins to rise, slowly making its way above the tall trees and skyscrapers. This isn't just any moon. It's Seoul's first helium balloon ride, Seouldal. The name Seouldal combines Seoul with Dal, the Korean word for moon. While it may resemble a traditional hot air balloon from the outside, it's different on the inside.
The biggest difference compared to a hot air balloon is that a hot air balloon rises by heating air with fire, which causes a hot air to lift the balloon. But in the case of a gas balloon like this, it uses helium, a gas lighter than air, to float. Seouldal doesn't use fire, making it safer since helium is a non-flammable gas.
From Friday, this attraction is open to the public following a 6-week trial run. I had the opportunity to take a ride myself. So this is the Seouldal, or the Moon of Seoul gas balloon. Follow me for a ride. The way up is both thrilling and a bit nerve-wracking. But the real highlight comes when you reach the top. So after 3 or 4 minutes going up, we're now up 130 meters from the ground. Take a look at the view. The 15-minute journey offers a stunning new perspective of Seoul.
It's amazing because you get to see the city skyline, parks, the Hangang River, and nature all at once. It really adds to the experience, and I think it's going to become a great tourist attraction.
It gives you a much farther view than I expected, which was really different. I'd love to come back here with my parents sometime.
Seoul is rising to the challenge, taking on major tourist cities such as Budapest and Paris that offer visitors a similar experience. With innovative attractions like Seouldar, the city's ambitious goal of attracting 30 million visitors annually by 2026 doesn't seem far.
Seoul has iconic landmarks like Seoul Tower and Lotte World Tower in Namsan Hanok Village, but finding places that combine fun with unique experiences can be challenging. Seoul Tower offers stunning views of the Hangang River and the city's skyline, much like observation decks in Tokyo and Dubai, but with the added thrill of a balloon ride.
For those eager to take this sky-high adventure, Seouldar operates every Tuesday to Sunday from noon to 10 p.m. And that's all for this week's edition of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching, and on behalf of all of us here at Arirang, we hope you have a great rest of the weekend.